I'm Tony from Metabolic, and today we're going to be working on the dumbbell snatch. So what is the dumbbell snatch? The dumbbell snatch is a movement where you bring the dumbbell from the ground up overhead in one fluid movement. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Couple from the side. All right, so I'm gonna break that down. First thing is, where should my feet be? So, as always, feet start just below the hips. And then with this movement, since the weight starts in between your feet, what you're gonna do is you're gonna step out. You're gonna take one wide step and another step so that your feet are just outside your shoulders. All right, this way you're gonna give yourself room to come down, grab that dumbbell, bring it up through, and so on. So that's where your feet start. You want to make sure that your feet are planted on the ground. You know, the weight is distributed evenly throughout the whole foot. You're not coming forward on your toes. You're not leaning too far back, anything like that. And so this movement, what we're doing is we're getting the weight from the ground up into overhead. First thing, hips go back. So all the tension is now on my hamstrings, right? My chest is forward, my stomach's tight. I'm not rounding, leaning over, anything like that. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this. The dumbbell starts almost just between my feet here, okay? It's not out forward, it's not too far back where I have to reach back. It's just right between, so and then what's gonna happen is I'm gonna bring that dumbbell down, up into a straight line, shrug the shoulder, bring the elbow up, and then pull myself underneath, lock my arm out, and stand it up. So what do we have to do that? Hips go back, chest stays up, and then what I'm gonna do here, instead of bending over, right, from this point, I'm just gonna bend my knees a little more, okay? So I can come down and keep my chest up, so almost like a squat. And then, first thing we're gonna do is we'll come up fast and bring the shoulder up. So down, up and shrug, okay? What this movement here is doing is teaching us to, because what happens is a big common fault is people like to bend the arm early. So they'll come down and they'll start bending and pulling and then drop. So we need to practice coming up and shrugging without bending the elbow. So up and shrug, okay? Next piece is up, shrug, high elbow. So shrug, elbow, down, shrug, elbow. Nothing's changing in my feet, my hips, anything. My hips are going back, my stomach's staying tight, my chest is up. Boom, shrug. So you should send that energy from your hips to your shoulder, to your elbow, and then finally we'll go overhead. So let's do a couple there. Right, that's without the drop, that's just a full muscle snatch. Boom. As this weight starts to get heavier, I'm gonna have to pull myself under and drop and catch in that squat position. All right, so chest up, heels are flat. Weight. I'm keeping this weight close to the body in a straight line as possible. It's efficiency, okay? If I leave this dumbbell here and then I start pulling and doing like this, It's going to send me off balance. Could cause injuries over time, things like that. So I want to keep this dumbbell nice and tight and close to my body. I want you to think of, as you're pulling this shrugging motion, that you are, pretend as if you're zipping up a sweater really fast. So it looks like this from the side. Shrug, shrug, boom. Then I'll add the elbow, 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 and then finally the full arm. And you'll notice I'm bringing it back down to my shoulder, to my hip, and then back to the floor, as opposed to getting it overhead and swinging back down. That's also probably really unsafe to be doing. Again, swinging away from overhead, down can cause low back, upper back, shoulder, arm, spine injuries galore. So we want to avoid swinging from the top back down, and we want to just bring it back to the shoulder, to the hip safely, back down to the floor. I don't want to, so a lot of questions sometimes is, which way should the dumbbell be? This way or this way, right? It could start either way. So you can have it in down facing vertically or horizontally. I do either or, it's just totally random. Boom. And then so you'll use both arms. You just have to remember when you're doing this, the shrug, you're not pulling the elbow unless you're adding the elbow piece in. So this right here, it's hips and shoulder. The elbow stays locked out. Hips and shoulder. Down, hips and shoulder. My hips are completely coming open. Then my shoulder, elbow, and finally locking out overhead. So if I'm practicing, a couple faults are people coming forward on the toes. So let me see if I could do one. Down, forward on the toes, forward on the toes. And look what happens. Sends you off balance, knocks you out of place. How do you keep from coming forward on the toes? Exactly that. Like I said, make sure you're distributing the weight evenly throughout the foot. So I come down. What I'm doing here is I'm digging my heels and all the points, all the balls of my feet into the ground. I'm actively pressing down. So as I'm coming up, my big toe, my pinky toe, my heel is all pressing into the ground, and I could feel it in my heel the most. So heel, right, keeps me from coming forward. If you're still coming forward, your chest is probably too forward and the weight is too far in front of you. Bring the weight closer at that point, right? Boom. Boom. Completely almost flat-footed. Another big thing people do, another common fault, is rounding the back. So when they come down, they round here, hands always off to the side. That's another. I'll jump back into that. So we'll keep going from here. Big thing is people round here. See how it's rounded? If you're ever in this position, if you do dumbbell snatches like this, you're gonna have the sorest back ever. So what you wanna try and do is always maintain tension in the hamstrings and the butt. After you're doing hundreds of reps, you're gonna maybe start to feel it in your low back quite a bit, but that's just kind of a victim of circumstance at that point. As long as you're doing it, as long as the main brunt is in your posterior chain, right? Your glute and your hamstring and your legs, right? They're doing all the work. So let me do this arm so you can see my back, right? Perfectly flat. Spine is neutral. Bam. So now if you're rounding, and you have to be conscious of this while you're in workouts, so how do you fix that? So I'm rounding. What I'm doing is, to fix that will be pull my hips lower and lift my chest. So now my spine is straight. Bam. So when you're doing this movement, hands are always off to the side. If your hand's on your knee when you're doing this, right, coming down, my hand's on my knee, that's kind of that's defeating the purpose of building the strength there. You're cheating when you're using this other hand. So I'm using half my power. I'm using my arm and my leg as a brace to get me off the floor here. Also, it's eliminating the need for my body to develop accuracy and balance. So this helps me balance a little more, right? It's a cheat. And if you're in a competition or anything like that, they're not going to count that rep. So, but we don't have to worry about competitions unless you're a competitor. If your hand comes anywhere near that knee, you're not going to get counted. It's not going to count as a full rep. So don't cheat yourself. Hands off to the side always. Anywhere off to the side. Hips, shoulder, elbow, lock out. If you have any questions on that video, feel free to comment, send them to me, anything like that. I hope you like this video. I'm Tony from Metabolic, and I'll see you in the next one.